Let's now go into a quiz. Now,
Let's do it.
with Gunther doing so well as IC champion, I thought it only fitting that we reflect on the history of the Intercontinental Championship. So I've got 10 questions here, and to start off with, very simple for any wrestling fan that is in the know, who was the first ever Intercontinental Champion?
Well, hopefully many wrestling fans know this one, but this one would be Pat Patterson.
That is exactly correct. Pat Patterson was for many years a right-hand man of Vince McMahon as well, for anyone that wasn't aware.
Did you know that the story is that he won well, actually, I'm going to sound like an ass here, but apparently he won a fictional tournament to unify the North American or the North, like the United States belt and the South American belt, hence Intercontinental. It was a fictional tournament, though. He didn't actually win anything.
Yeah. Next up, second question. Who has the highest number of reigns as Intercontinental Champion? And for a bonus point, Thanasir, try name how many reigns this person has.
Oh, I actually know I think I know the answer to this one because of a promo that was not cut in WWE. It was cut in NJPW. I believe the answer is Chris Jericho, who declares himself a 9 times Intercontinental Champion of the WWE and a 1-time Intercontinental Champion in NJPW for 10 total IC reigns.
Exactly correct. Yes, Chris Jericho is the one with the most reigns with 9. And just notable mention, the person in second is actually The Miz, who has 8. So I thought that was interesting.
He has to overtake. By the end of his career, he needs 2 more and take the record.
We'll see. We'll see what happens there. I'm not sold because I think The Miz is a good place. He might not want it. So who knows? All right, next question. Number 3. In what year was the Intercontinental Championship introduced?
Oh, that one's a hard one. I want to say in the 70s. You know what? Let's go right down the middle. Let's say 1975.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is 1979.
Oh, okay. I wasn't that far off, actually.
When you said the 70s, I thought, okay, he's on here, but yeah, no, 1979 was when Pat Patterson, as you said, won this fictitious tournament to unify the North American and South American championships, something like that. Next question. Who holds the record for most combined days as IC champion?
Oh, this one is a hard one. Logically, one would think it's either the long reigns like Gunther and Honky Tonk, or the aggregate of the ones with the most reigns like Jericho and The Miz. I think I'm actually going to go with The Miz on this one.
It's not a bad shout. I can understand the logic behind it, and I wouldn't have got this one without having known the answer. It's Pedro Morales.
Oh, Morales. Okay.
And his combined record, so it's 617 or 619 days as champion, depending on what WWE formally recognizes. Obviously, there were lots of delays back in the day, tape delays, so sometimes the records are a bit mixed. But yeah, it was Pedro Morales. Next question, bringing it a bit more contemporary. Obviously, Gunther is the current champion. Who did Gunther beat to become Intercontinental Champion?
That is a fantastic question. I want to say Ricochet.
Are you locking that in?
Yeah, let's lock in Ricochet. First instinct is typically right.
In this case, you got it right. Yes, it is Ricochet. And keeping on Gunther a little bit as a theme, obviously everyone knows now, he broke the Honky Tonk Man's record. But I want to ask a different question, which is, before Gunther, who held the record for longest reign of this millennium? So from 2000 onwards.
From 2000 onwards, okay. That's another very good question. I think we're talking the longest single reign, right?
Longest single reign, not a
Single
cumulative,
reign. Okay.
single.
I'm thinking through who the potentially long reigns were, and people that come to mind are like Randy Orton 2004. Not a lot is coming to mind for 2005, 6, 7. Jeff Hardy got stripped of the belt. I don't know. I think I don't think he held it very long. The Miz potentially, Cody Rhodes potentially. I think he held it for a fair while. Maybe Wade Barrett as well. He had a few reigns. Maybe one of them was long. But it's a long millennium. I know Shinsuke actually held it for a long time as well because he didn't defend it. You know what? I'm going to go with Randy Orton.
Okay, then you're going with Randy Orton?
Yeah.
That is incorrect. Someone who was very close, I think you mentioned, was Cody Rhodes. He was very close. He was like 236 days or something along those lines. The longest IC champion of this millennium before Gunther was actually the gold standard, Shelton Benjamin.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
he held it for 244 days. And notably, he won the title at Taboo Tuesday in 2004. And he did not know that was back when that sort of stipulation was very shoot. So they had to just go with whoever got the most votes. And in that time, they didn't know who was going to get voted, and they didn't actually think it was going to be Shelton Benjamin, as I'm sure you remember, Thanasi. But
yeah, they thought it would be Batista who would be voted as the number one, but Shelton Benjamin got the win.
And they decided to just give it to him. He beat Chris Jericho, and they had, by all accounts, a very decent match and big.
Oh, they had a very good match.
Next question. Who is the oldest person to have won the Intercontinental Championship? And for a bonus, how old were they? So obviously, in this case, we're saying at the time of winning it, who was the oldest, not who is the oldest person to have ever won it.
Okay.
Just in general.
Look, it is the workhorse belt. So typically, like you put it on your young guys before you give them the world title shot. There are a few veterans that come to mind. This is a hard one, though. I'm thinking people like The Miz more recently, or Daniel Bryan 2015, or Razor just always looked old, but he won it in the 90s. So I don't think I'd put Razor Ramon. The Big Show. Let's go with the Big Show.
That is incorrect, I'm afraid. The correct answer we were looking for was Ric Flair.
Oh, yes.
And
can I guess how old he was?
Go ahead. Geo crack.
He won it in 2000 I think he won it in 2005, and he held it into 2006. And around that time, he would have been what? 54?
You're close. Very close. It was
Oh,
56.
Okay.
But yeah, so Ric Flair. Who would have thought, huh? Okay, the next question, number 8. Who was the last person to win the Intercontinental Championship on a pay-per-view? And if you can, try and name the event in which it happened.
This probably speaks to the fact that the IC title and the US title have kind of become pseudo TV championships because the title changes don't happen all that often on pay-per-view. I'm gonna guess that the pay-per-view was Payback, and I'm gonna guess that it was won by Shinsuke.
Okay. You were wrong on both of those, I'm afraid.
Oh, amazing.
Go on, man. It was actually Apollo Crews, and this was at WrestleMania 37, Night 2. He won in that Nigerian drum match or something against Big E. So, yeah. So that was literally 2 main years ago, was the last time the title changed hands on a pay-per-view.
Wow.
Hopefully with Gunther, we'll see someone lose it on a pay-per-view and not just on TV, just to give it that great flourish of a finish.
Yeah.
All right, the penultimate question, Thanasi. When was the last time the Intercontinental Championship main evented a pay-per-view?
I'm somewhat confident with this one. I think it was Extreme Rules in 2018. I think it was Dolph versus Seth Rollins in an Iron Man match.
That is exactly correct. Yes, the two had that Iron Man match, and I think, Thanasi, if you will recall, in that match, uh, they kind of felt like the timer was hijacking the actual competitors because everyone was
Yes.
cheering for the time, and they actually had to remove it from the Titantron to try to give focus to Dolph and Seth. And this leads nicely into our final question, which is how many times has the Intercontinental Championship main evented a pay-per-view in WWE?
Okay, I'm not going to get the answer right to this one. However, I'm going to recite the ones that I know of. Obviously, there was the one that we just mentioned, Extreme Rules 2018. I also recall, I think it was Taboo Tuesday, maybe 2005 or 6 or something. And I think that was Ric Flair against Triple H in a steel cage. And I think they put them in the main event, I think. SummerSlam, of course, 1992 at Wembley. And let's go with just one miscellaneous that I can't remember, just margin of error. Let's say 4 times.
Just doing a double check, make sure I've got the right
A fact check
records.
here.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I've got it right. For close, it's actually 6.
Oh, okay.
And the thing I was checking just to make sure, because when you said Ric Flair, Triple H, I thought, oh crap, I think that actually might have been one. I didn't have it in my records, but no, that was the penultimate match of that card.
Oh, okay.
That was John Cena versus Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels was the main event of that night. So it's 6. As you correctly said, SummerSlam 1992, Extreme Rules 2018. The other ones were In Your House 3, and In Your House 8, which I'll be honest, I didn't know. Another one was Backlash 2001. And probably the most famous.
Was Backlash 2001 though? That I think it was a winner takes all.
Yes, and I'll get onto that in a
Okay.
second.
Yeah.
And then the other one, which is probably the most notable case that you missed, well, because many talk about SummerSlam 1992, and I think the other one they refer to is WrestleMania 6, which was the winner take all between Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
And the thing I was going to bring up is that in terms of just the title itself being defended on its own, I believe it's only happened on 3 occasions, and that was on In Your House 8, SummerSlam 1992, and Extreme Rules 2018. At In Your House 3 and Backlash 2001, it was a winner takes all, not just for the IC in the world, but also for the tag team titles.
Mm-hmm.
And at WrestleMania 6, as we mentioned, it was the winner takes all, the big event for both the IC and the WWE Championship. So that wraps up the quiz for this week, Nancy. How did you find that? I'll give you a sec. I'll tell you in a sec what your result was, but how did you find
Yeah,
that?
no, there were some bloody hard ones in there. All these like weird random facts about the numbers of how many days and who has the longest reigns, and specifically when it made evented pay-per-views. That was well constructed. Good on you for putting that together. But there were some hard ones in there. I'm glad I managed to pick up especially the late ones, like the couple of the main events. The fact that I picked up on those. But yeah, my assumption was that Triple H is going to just put himself in the main event if it's got to be for a mid-card title. That's why my mind jumped to that steel cage Taboo Tuesday match.
Okay, well, you got 5 points out of a possible 13.
Oh,
Uh,
that's not so good.
No, but you know what? I think you did all right because I'll be honest, I wanted this one to be a quiz in which we could actually learn something from it, not just get the questions right. So I deliberately tried to tailor it so we hear things that we didn't know. Like, for example, I before researching it, I didn't know how many times it had main evented a pay-per-view, and I was curious.
Yeah.
So isn't that what it's all about? It's all about learning and broadening our knowledge.
Yes, it's all about the learning.